Hi, I'm Sarah Rodriguez. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I'm an artist and art educator. So today we're going to take a look at my artist studio. We're at the Carl Soloway building in Cincinnati, and my studio is this one right here. So we're going to go inside and go up to the third floor space. Studio could be lots of different things. It could be a studio where you make specific crafts, like glass studio or ceramic studio. But for me, as just a visual artist, it's a place where I make things. And I keep all of my things, store things, and kind of my little, almost like an office. There are lots of benefits. Well, first what I'm thinking of is just the general space, having space to do large scale projects, having space for storage of all of my different art that I've collected and all of my art materials. So it's all in one place, and we all know art can be really messy. So
Yes.
It's nice to have a place where I can just be messy and not messy at my house. Another great thing is the community that I have here. So in my studio space, I'm here with 3 other artists just in this space, but this whole building is full of artists doing all kinds of different things. So just having that kind of community space too is really nice.
Yeah, kind of like a community in a classroom where they get to work with other students in the classroom.
Absolutely. And it's so nice because sometimes making art by yourself is hard. And when you have people who are also excited about art and who are doing really cool things and have ideas that are different from yours, you can kind of collaborate and make more and new things from that. And then the other thing that's really awesome about this space that I love is access to materials. It's right behind us, but there's all kinds of stuff, like wood shop kind of things, like big tools that I don't have at my house. But I can come here if I need to build certain things or want to do certain projects that I just don't have the tools at home to use.
That also makes me think about in school, having materials that you would maybe not have at home.
Yeah,
Kind of like studio and school are very similar.
absolutely. And you always like something that's really great and that I've kind of realized over time is that having those spaces at school, whether that's in elementary school all the way up to college, it's so hard to have access to all those things. So when you do have access to those things, you got to take advantage of it because there might not be ever another time where you will have access to those things.
Yep.
I use all kinds of different materials for my artwork. I love painting and drawing. I love collaging and cutting paper out. I've also gotten into sewing, so that's another kind of aspect of my artwork that is now incorporated into my studio and my art making. I also dabble in some sculpture. So I kind of am a multidisciplinary artist where I kind of do all kinds of different things.
And I'll bet having a studio makes it a lot easier for you to do all those different things too.
It does, it does. And thematically, a lot of times I think about personal experiences, personal history, and how that kind of gets translated into this visual conversation I want to have with people. So when I think about art, I think about it as this great connector, a way to connect with other people, talk about shared experiences that maybe experiences we all have together, and my pieces, I like to reflect that for people. So when they see my art, I hope that they might think about those things that connect us to one another.
And maybe when they see your art feels kind of familiar, even if they've never seen it before.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's like an overarching thing of what I'm kind of trying to achieve with my artwork. And I just do it in a multitude of ways. My space, I really like to keep kind of these special little things that aren't artwork, but they're things that like inspire me or things that I cherish that are special to me. So I like to have those things around. I also think it's really important to hang up your artwork because it forces you to look at it, especially at your house. That's the good thing about working at your house sometimes is if you put your artwork up there, you wake up and you see it, you go to bed and you see it before you go to bed. So you're forced to kind of live with it and look at it and think about it. So that's why I like to have my pieces up too. As I'm working on them, maybe right after I finish them. And so as I'm thinking through a whole body of artwork that I'm creating, I can kind of go back and play off of things that I've already created. So this piece right here is a fabric piece that's combined with a paper cutout drawing. So I drew my picture right here, cut it out, and then I created this crocheted almost like a blanket and kind of pinned it together, almost collaging it together. So with pieces like this, I'm really trying to combine flat two-dimensional pieces with kind of these three-dimensional, almost sculptural pieces, but still loving color and thinking about kind of my like painting and how that kind of comes out, and not just like a painting that's a rectangle that sits on the wall, and how that can be, this could still be a painting but maybe looks a little different than we might normally think of a painting. I just started really working with sewing as part of my practice and kind of figuring out how to make with that. So a lot of times I use collage and color, so painting is a big part of my artwork, always has been. So with the sewing, I'm just finding new ways to paint and new ways to collage, but just with fabric. So this is kind of the area where I can do a lot of sewing here with my machine and have a nice big table to kind of spread out and do that with. A lot of my artwork I've been thinking about has to do with being in the home. And when I think of being in the home, I think of comfort, I think of family history, I think of objects that are in my home. So for instance, a tablecloth that was gifted to me inspired this piece right here. I felt like by getting this tablecloth as a gift, it felt like now it's become more than just a tablecloth, but it's become an heirloom, something that gets passed down from generation to generation. And so I wanted to represent how special I thought that tablecloth now is with this piece. So I cut and sewed this piece, and then I drew a similar pattern to what was on my actual tablecloth. And then I went through and I added glitter to some of the space around the piece, which took a very, very long time. So, you know, sometimes artwork happens really fast and that's really cool. And then other times artwork happens really slow. So this piece took about 10 months to complete for myself. But now it's here living on my wall. So after thinking through that flower pattern that was on the tablecloth, I started doing a lot of drawings. I have stacks of drawings that I was doing of this flower pattern. And while doing those drawings and exploring what sewing was like, I started creating these squares using this kind of flower icon to create these paintings that I consider them paintings, but these kind of other fabric pieces too. So I'm really interested in this flower and maybe how it represents nature, and you know, thinking through what a painting is, like I mentioned before, pushing what that means past just a rectangle on the wall. So really thinking about the history of painting and my kind of role in that. And also playing on things that I love, like color and how light hits in a room and it changes the color and shifts the color. So that's what these kind of transparencies, these transparent colors laying on top of each other, and how that changes what's happening throughout the pieces.